The strongest stand in
This is a
JoJo,
debate as old as
according to
stands themselves,
Araki.
as fans power scale and pit their abilities head to head to try and decide who's the best. Even the characters within the series have questioned the power scaling of stands and have discussions about them, with Dio claiming some stands to be the weakest and others to be the strongest.
It's kind of like, how do you match them, to be honest?
Hell, I pretty much started
Unless you
making
put them
content
against
because of
each
these
other, I
questions
guess.
through my series of standoff videos. So it's of course a fun discussion to have that could potentially have a definitive answer. Although the series creator Hirohiko Araki's approach to power is not as simple as one might think, as typically the strongest stands in the series of course belong to the main JoJos and main villains, as by the end of each part it's a clash between their powers to see who will overcome. Although unlike other series, like say Dragon Ball for example, where a character's power is determined by a number or their pure strength and speed, the unique part about JoJo is that Araki approaches his characters in a completely different way than most series, as instead of making villains stronger as the series continued, he strived to make them different from what came before, as stands possess some of the most unique and bizarre abilities in
that's
all
why you
of
get
manga,
such crazy
making it
like
almost
villains.
impossible to determine the outcome of certain encounters, like the age-old question of Dio's time stop versus Diavolo's time skip. What would really happen if these two characters fought, and how would their powers interact? Sure, it can be fun to theorize and discuss, but it would never really answer the question of who is stronger. So for this dilemma, let's look towards Araki himself, the creator of these powers, and find out what stand he considers to be the strongest ability he ever
Probably
wrote.
his favorite one.
Diving into some of the mind-bending ideas such as King Crimson, Made in Heaven, D4C, and The Wonder of You. But before we can uncover the strongest stand in
King Crimson is like the strongest, or maybe it's their favorite, I don't know.
Let's talk about the strongest way you guys can protect your online activity and take full control over your internet experience. With the sponsor of today's video, Surfshark VPN.
Surfshark VPN, I got it all
in the original JoJo universe, containing parts 1 through 6, when it came to the most powerful stands, Araki found that depicting the forces of the world that cannot be seen through stand abilities to be the peak of his creativity. This is why the main villain's powers controlled the forces of time, fate, and gravity, these invisible forces woven into the fabric of reality bending to one's will, which is a truly terrifying idea. As Dio was able to stop time to all of those on Earth and possibly beyond being able to temporarily exist in his own world, Kuro was able to rewind time, trapping his targets in a loop destined to
There's a lot of like
death.
time manipulation, in JoJo.
Diavolo was able to change fate by skipping through time, breaking free from his destined path. And Father Pucci, through evolving his stand to Sea Moon, was able to influence gravity and eventually time, accelerating time to a singularity point which reset the entire universe. So yeah, they're all pretty powerful abilities and complex ideas. But in terms of strongest, it depends on how we determine what makes a stand strong. Is it its ability to win in a fight, its ability to break the laws of nature, how much destruction it can cause, or how large of an impact the stand can have on the universe? As these stands can all be measured in different ways, although according to Araki, none of these stands are what he considers to be the strongest. Not even Gold Experience Requiem, which in theory could overwrite any of the previously mentioned stand powers, completely nullifying their abilities. So if none of these stands are the strongest, let's move into the alternate universe. In the 7th part of JoJo, Steel Ball Run, Araki would create Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, a stand with the ability to access an unlimited number of parallel worlds, pushing his depictions of these invisible forces to its absolute limits, introducing the idea of a multiverse as a canon within the series, as the stand user Funny Valentine could hop between dimensions, interacting with alternate versions of himself and others, and even pull people between dimensions, creating anomalies in space-time that I'm sure even Valentine himself couldn't fully comprehend, as a law of nature is that two people from alternate dimensions cannot exist within the same time and place, as their bodies will be forced together and obliterated out of existence, correcting the anomalies. Valentine, of course, being an exception to the rule, as his stand was able to bypass this phenomenon. So while D4C may not be as widely impacting as, say, Made in Heaven, I would definitely say it goes further beyond any original universe's stand's capabilities, being able to travel limitlessly between dimensions, which is a greater force than time itself. And as if this wasn't powerful enough,
so far I would say there was a D4, like that's a crazy ability.
Progresses further into D4C Love Train, using the power of Jesus.
What? He upgraded his ability with Love Train? And now he has the power of Jesus?
Christ himself to manipulate the alternate universe's depiction of fate, which is the invisible flows of positive and negative energy within the world, placing Valentine in a gap in space unaffected by any negative energy within the universe. The only ability that was able to overcome
Only
Love Train's
positive
gap
vibes.
was Tusk Act 4, which created an infinite source of energy, literally infinity, which could break through Love Train's interdimensional barrier and imbue him with the infinite spin, which controls time, gravity, and the ability to cross through dimensions, following Valentine no matter where he traveled, constantly pulling him back underground to where he was first struck by the attack, an ability Valentine could only describe as a calamity. So we are getting closer to the strongest stand, but even after all of these powers, Araki still does not consider any of them to be the strongest. And that brings us to part 8 and the Wonder of You, where Araki would write what he believes
Why do I feel like it's probably some like underrated, you know, stand?
to be the strongest adversary. In the author notes of JoJo volume 27, the final volume of the part, Araki would write, "Who's stronger, Godzilla or Ultraman? That's always been on my mind ever since I fantasized about it as a child. Even when writing JoJo, this type of topic is
brother.
not something I can avoid. Who is the strongest villain? What is strength and what is peak fortune? I've decided that the strongest and most terrifying adversity one can face is called calamity. Calamity attacks irrationally, but is actually bound by a certain logic and will encroach every person equally. It's too powerful, and trying to overcome it might in
What does that even
itself
mean,
be
calamity?
beyond hope." So according to Araki, calamity is the strongest ability, and in turn that would make the Wonder of You the strongest stand. But what does the Wonder of You actually do? Sure, something about calamity and chains of logic, but what really is calamity and how does the stand use it? So like pretty much every other stand we have discussed, the Wonder of You does not create
Wonder of You.
calamity. Same as Valentine does not create other dimensions and Diavolo does not create fate. Their stands are merely tools that allow them to manipulate a force that already exists. So calamity on its
So what is the force of calamity?
own is already a force within the alternate world of JoJo, same as time and gravity. So the Wonder of You is essentially able to manipulate calamity energy and redirect it at will,
What is this calamity energy though?
specifically towards anyone who chooses to pursue Toru or the head doctor, which is just another physical form of the stand. But where does calamity energy come from and why is it so powerful? In this alternate universe, Araki explores the philosophy of existence and what it truly means to exist, as everything in this world that exists is trapped within a balance of
Bro, this is so deep.
positive and negative energy. This concept can be viewed as the alternate recreation of fate from the original universe. In Golden Wind, why do bad things happen to good people? Because fate exists, a predetermined destiny caused by unseen forces. In the alternate universe, why do bad things happen to good people? Because they exist within the flow of calamity, and everything within this flow is at the mercy of the balance of positive and negative forces. This is all pretty much an overcomplicated interpretation of good and bad luck, but viewed in a way that binds these irrational occurrences to a universal logic. So think of existence as a bubble, sealed off and inescapable, and within the bubble is an equal amount of
It's basically just a randomness though. That's literally what the universe is, right? It's just random. And I feel like that's like what
positive and negative energy, perfectly balanced like a yin and yang sign. And everything which exists is also within the bubble, bouncing around in unpredictable paths, encountering an
basically
equal amount of positive and negative energy at random moments. And the Wonder of You's ability is simply to trap someone within the negative energy, an inescapable flow of calamity, which in a way is a manipulation of fate by controlling the path of one's existence. But this
Wait, that's like just putting like a curse on someone though, right? Like just basically giving them bad luck. Or like just being in a negative energy.
ability in practice isn't necessarily more powerful than any of the previously mentioned stands, especially the past main villains. It's just harder to overcome. As in the manga, its power is visualized by characters encountering bouts of bad luck, such as knocking into things, getting hit by a car, cutting your fingers in the kitchen, or a plain door falling.
Technically, this is infinitely like you can't overcome this in a way, right? Because if he decides that you will have bad luck unless you can manipulate your own luck, and maybe that kind of goes against it. I don't
falling
know.
from the sky and hitting you. Just completely random occurrences of bad luck as a result of being placed in that negative flow. So I believe the reason why Araki claims Calamity to be the strongest adversary is because of how universal and overwhelming it is. Dio stopping time is powerful, and it does stop time for everyone, but not everyone feels or notices its effects. And the same for King Crimson and D4C. Made in Heaven is kind of...
So you could technically like put the negative flow onto Dio and then somehow like deactivate his time stop because it didn't work for some reason because he was unlucky.
the exception here, but that's more of a one-time use ability that just resets everything and that's over. Calamity, on the other hand, is a representation of literally all of the negative energy in existence. It's irrational and unpredictable and could affect anyone at any time to varying degrees. If we say that Araki's philosophy of positive and negative flows is how the world really works, then you, me, and everyone else watching this video have encountered the power of Calamity in some form. It affects our lives in tangible ways and leaves in its wake pain and sorrow. It's completely unavoidable and something we can't overcome, a force which affects everyone within existence in equal amounts, and I believe it's for this reason why Araki considers this power to be the strongest.
I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense, right?
I don't necessarily think Araki is saying the Wonder of You is the strongest stand in JoJo, rather the force it's able to control is the most powerful concept Araki has explored so far with his writing, far greater than time, fate, gravity, and parallel dimensions. So by default, that might actually mean that Soft and Wet Go Beyond is the strongest stand in JoJo, as its ability allows it to exist outside of reality and go beyond Calamity itself. But does that also mean the stand could go beyond time and gravity? I'm not so sure.
Maybe.
So I guess the debate can continue forever and always on who is the strongest stand
as long as he keeps on introducing new characters.
JoJo. And maybe in the JoJo lands, Araki will write something even more powerful than Calamity. And that is the strongest stand in JoJo, according to Araki himself.